Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to This Song Is Yours, a music podcast where we chat to a new guest each week, talk about their life and creative endeavours, and talk to them about some of the music they love. Our show works by chatting to our guests about music, their songwriting techniques, and occasionally getting them to make you a playlist of the songs they love. Welcome to episode 204. I'm your host, Simon Fink. Our guest today is Keelan Mak. The Melbourne-based old pop artist has had quite a year, signing with PIAS Australia and returning with his second solo EP last week, which is entitled Brave Face. In today's episode, we're speaking with Keelan about being a latecomer to music, his songwriting process, and his advice for upcoming artists. Here we go. Our guest today is a singer, songwriter and producer based in Melbourne, Australia. Following on from his 2019 EP, Test the Shadows, the alt pop artist released his second EP last week, entitled Brave Face. Please welcome to This Song Is Yours, Keelan Mak. Hello, sir. How are we?
Good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you so much for your time today.
That's all right. I'm happy to be here.
Now, I do want to ask very quickly, firstly, where are you joining us from today? It looks like obviously inside, but it looks like a very beautiful green living room that you're in.
Yeah, I am in my lounge room currently at home in Melbourne.
Oh, beautiful. What is the weather like there at the moment?
It's actually sunny, which is surprising. We've come out of a week of rain, and as you have probably read, a lot of Victoria is flooding. So it's been pretty crazy here at the moment, but I mean, today we've been gifted with some sunshine. So
I think, like most of the country, and obviously our hearts do go out to Melbourne with the flooding and everything at the moment, any sense of sunshine or any relief from the kind of wild weather we'll gladly take. So I'm glad that you are seeing a bit of sun today.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Now we are talking today about the brand new EP that has just come out for yourself. It is entitled Brave Face. Firstly, congratulations on this EP. It is a brilliant piece of work.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very proud of it.
As you should be. I wanted to ask, I guess, just to begin with, we've recently been talking to a lot of artists about the juxtaposition of like happy, sad music, the music that contains lyrical content that might be a little bit more serious or closer to the truth of life, but is wrapped up in a beautifully presented, almost sometimes dance floor ready package. And I feel like some of these songs kind of fit into that canon as well. Firstly, I guess, how are you feeling about these songs finally being out there and fans being able to enjoy them?
Yeah, I feel ecstatic. I mean, it's a project that I've been working on for a really long time, and we were shopping it around for also quite some time before it was finished. So it's good. It's been a few years that have passed along the way since, a lot of these ideas were first formed. So yeah, I'm really happy to finally just have it out and release some music again.
Of course. Do any of the songs or do any of the tracks, when you listen back to them now that it's coming out, any of them change meaning for you?
Not necessarily. I think some things just naturally change meaning when you look at them in hindsight and you become a little bit further separated from the emotions you had when you were writing it. But they all still definitely kind of strike a chord within me some way or another. like similar to what they did when I was writing them.
Of course. This is I believe it's the second EP from yourself. And as you said, these songs have kind of been in the works for a number of years. I was wondering if you would be able to, if you'll allow us to ask, to take us back to, as we've discussed, you're in Melbourne. I think these songs were written in Sydney when you were camping up there for a little bit. And yeah, whether you're able to tell us, I guess, what took you to Sydney and what the catalyst of some of these songs stem from, or sorry, where they came from.
Yeah, no, totally. Every song apart from Forever Ago was written in Sydney. Forever Ago is my green light anthem, and that was kind of a song that was written about looking back on that place and having a bit more kind of ownership and confidence of yourself and your progression. So kind of is only fitting that I wrote that one in Melbourne. I went to Sydney because I was kind of just chasing that music career, and I wanted to be near the big smoke and, you know, near the major labels and start trying to like network and write with other people. And I fell in love very quickly. And a lot of my life in Sydney kind of became this love and this time. And I think it was why I stopped writing for a lot of that period of my life, because I was just having fun and being in love and kind of doing this thing and this new life for myself, you know, at the age of like 22. And then, yeah, a lot of that kind of came crashing down. And in that period is when a lot of these songs were being written. And then eventually I just couldn't really exist in Sydney anymore. I just think it was kind of connected to a lot of what was happening in my life. And I needed to kind of just, you know, as Braveface says, fill up the car and run away. Pretty much what I did a few weeks later. I just, you know, ended my lease, quit my job, packed my car, sold all my things and moved to Melbourne. Very dramatic.
It makes for good songwriting though. So I think that is all that matters. Obviously it is good to hear that you have, I guess, bounced back or been able to process these things when you're songwriting. Because from what I could tell from an outsider's perspective, that there's an element of heartbreak in some of these songs. We won't give too much away, but for you, when you're writing these tracks, how do you find that balance of sharing, kind of living, singing, speaking your truth without having to go into the intricate details of some of those more personal matters in your life?
Yeah, I mean, there's always a fine balance with songwriting, and, you know, some of it is embellishing a moment and making it sound bigger than it is, and sometimes it's watering it down and, you know, not being too vulnerable. I think a lot of these songs I try to explain in essence what I'm wanting to talk about, but I also, you know, do try and kind of play it out in a way that can be digested more on a larger scale, and people can still kind of get the gist of what I'm singing about. But, you know, I don't have to be too specific or, you know, reference too many things. But at the same time, you know, I do love artists that write like that. And I think there is a lot of, you know, brilliance in having a lyric that is just to the point and really vulnerable. I think Phoebe Bridgers is a person that's so good at that.
100% agree. For anyone who does listen to this podcast regularly, they would know our appreciation for Phoebe Bridgers. So I just very much appreciate that you referenced her in this. I'd love to know, if you'll allow me to ask, I guess, your first foray into songwriting and, I guess, music growing up. I know that, and please correct me if any of this is wrong, I'm hoping I've researched this correctly, coming from a mixed background, your mother is from Papua New Guinea, your father is Australian, but with an Irish heritage, and so both extremely well-versed musical cultures within them. I guess both lovely musical kind of heritages in those two areas. And then for yourself, was music around in the house a lot when you were growing up and when you were little?
Funnily enough, it wasn't. My mother comes from a very big family. She's one of 10. And all of my aunties and uncles, play instruments. And, on my mother's side, we would have family get-togethers where everyone would kind of form a band and we would play for hours until, the early hours of the morning. And so to an extent, growing up, I was definitely surrounded by music in like the bigger picture of things. But at home, apart from my dad playing a lot of Triple J, I think that was probably the biggest musical presence I had. I didn't actually start getting into playing instruments and singing until I was 15. So, much later in life.
Do you remember what that introduction was around 15?
Yeah, I was in high school and I joined the guitar club and we all had our nylon guitars doing the Beatles Twist and Shout at, a school performing arts night. And then I became quite close with my music teacher and she kind of brought me in and made me join the choir and, kind of shaped me a little bit.
I did read somewhere, where was it? I read somewhere that I believe when you were starting out, when you were playing guitar and singing, that Matt Corby was one of those earlier inspirations into, I guess, kind of writing your own music.
Yeah, super obsessed with that guy. Big time.
It's interesting you say that. Obviously, there are some elements that I could pull from your musical project to Matt's, but I guess that did you ever think of kind of going down that path of like the more singery, songwritery pathway?
Totally. When I was in high school, I formed a band and was doing a lot of music that was similar to his. And then I went into university and studied it and kind of stayed on that path for a little bit, but kind of fell in love with Ableton and fell in love with producing and kind of took a different route. But I've said this so many times before in the past, but if anyone's ever curious, I do have one song on SoundCloud right at the very bottom called Control, where I sing with a 5-piece band, and it still gets like 1,000 plays a week today. And that's a completely different version of me. And I would say that's probably the last kind of glimpse of my Matt Corby obsession you can hear in that song.
We will make sure, if you want us to, we can put it in the podcast show notes so that people can revisit that after checking out the EP. But I'll wait for your approval on that one.
Yeah, no, you can go for it. I love Control. I think it's awesome. I definitely love that. It's just tucked away on SoundCloud, and if people really want to, they can go find it.
No, look at that. We will put it in the show notes and we'll allow people to kind of check out the multifaceted nature of your musical creative being. I was hoping that you might indulge us, Keelan. One of my favorite tracks off the EP was Who I Am to You. I thought that was a beautiful track. I kind of thought the way that it builds was it just kind of, out of all the tracks, I found myself revisiting it time and time again. If you'll allow us, would you be able to just take us back to the song's creation and the catalyst and the songwriting process for that song?
Yeah, I had the Who Am I to You chorus melody in my head, and it was floating around forever, and just one of those ideas that I thought I'll get to it when I get to it. But I think my headspace going into it was a little bit different. I kind of wrote it towards the end of my time in Sydney, and it was very much written in a calmer headspace. And I think at the time, Billie Eilish had just released her latest album, and I was listening to a lot of, her vocal and being like,
my dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
This season, Instacart has your back to school. As in, they've got your back to school lunch favorites like snack packs and fresh fruit. And they've got your back to school supplies like backpacks, binders, and pencils. And they've got your back when your kid casually tells you they have a huge school project due tomorrow. Let's face it, we were all that kid. So first, call your parents to say I'm sorry, and then download the Instacart app to get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes all school year long. Get a $0 delivery fee with your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 an order. Additional terms apply.
I haven't really done enough just soft, gentle performance with any of my music. I think I get caught up in the energy of pop and electronic, and I wanted to create something that was a little bit more gentle, where I could sing softer and be a little bit more personable. And so, yeah, out of that came "Who Am I to You." It was very much just a really soft, sweet track, whilst also still being sad and talking about sad things. But yeah.
It is a brilliant track, and thank you very much for allowing us to ask about that. I'm curious, as someone who I know in previous interviews you've spoken about your position within the culture of being a queer person of colour artist, and I guess the position of the platform that you have in terms of being able to say what you want to say. As someone who does have that platform, I'm curious for yourself, when you are songwriting, is there any amount of pressure, I guess, that you feel to make sure that you're using that platform to its best ability? Or is it just that you're wanting to, I'm not sure if I'm asking this correctly, and I hope that it's making sense, but that you're able to utilize that position for the best, and that, yeah, I'm wondering what kind of impacts that has on your creative process, I guess, is the best way to ask it.
No, totally. Yeah, I mean, it's not a thought necessarily that plays on my mind a lot. And I think that kind of boils down to the subject matter that I like to write about. I think writing about love and heartbreak and emotion is, to an extent, a feeling that can kind of be copied and pasted across many cultures and sexualities. And I think, as long as I'm talking from a place of honesty and from experience, I think, if anything, just about being open and, say, in my instance, using he, him pronouns as a love interest in a song is just a way of kind of kindly introducing a queer energy into what I'm writing about. I did a essay where I had to write about what Pride Month meant to me. And I think when I kind of went into a place of introspection with myself as an artist in that regard, it was kind of like, my nature is I am quite a neutral, calm, gentle person, and I don't necessarily go out and protest in a vocal, aggressive manner. It's kind of more of a protest in existence and, being myself in the public eye. And so, yeah, I think a lot of what I take into regard is just being as honest as I can and as queer as I can.
Of course. I did have a read of that article. I think it was Atwood magazine. I'm not sure if that's the right one. Yes, it was a beautiful, beautiful essay. Again, we'll put that in the show notes so people can read that as well after they listen to this episode. I know that in the essay you kind of mentioned that it took you a little while within your own artistry to, I guess, kind of get there to be able to find that balance. Do you have any advice for younger artists who are coming up who might be uncertain of their own voice, and if they do find themselves as a member of the queer community, or they might be a person of colour, do you have any advice for those people who are still, I guess, finding their own voice and where they want to stand on it?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my hesitation with that was I was really scared of kind of being lumped into this category of queer artist or queer POC artist. And I think that it really stopped me from being my true self. I wasn't necessarily closeted. I was out to my family, my friends, and there was never an issue in that regard. But it hindered me a lot because I was really scared of getting thrown into all of these queer categories because I wanted to be seen as an artist that just made music. But I think, the older I got and the more I did it, the more I realized that just being yourself, it will happen. Those categories get formed, but in saying that, you also have younger queer artists or music enthusiasts that want to focus on queer voices and POC voices. And, if there's any actual kind of advice I would offer, it would just be to be your absolute truest self and, make the music that you want to make, and whatever category that you get put into, it will just happen. And as long as you're being yourself, it'll be true to that.
I think that is fantastic advice. Thank you very much for discussing that with us. One thing I was wanting to touch on, I know before you mentioned Ableton, I believe that your first foray into production was through a deluxe edition of the Flume record that had, I think, some of his stems and like a demo version of Ableton, if I've done my research correctly. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Do you have a preference in your creative process of, I guess, production first, beats first, lyrics first? Is it the same every time, or is it, I guess, what is do you have a preference in one of those two?
I definitely don't. I think I'm a songwriter first and producer second. I've never been the type of person that just sits down and makes beats. It's always been kind of like songwriter brain triggering a beat to be made for it. So yeah, it always kind of starts with a vocal idea or a lyrical idea. I usually jot down kind of song titles and lyrical lines in my phone, and then we'll kind of just pick those out and kind of go into a session with the idea of trying to make a song that, uses those lyrics, and then I'll kind of just see what I want to do on the day. It depends. Yeah. Never a set process for me.
Look, I can very much appreciate that. Keelan, I guess a number of people would like to know as well, with this EP coming out, can we expect to see you playing any shows around the country in support?
Possibly. Shows are a little bit touch and go at the moment. We're kind of just focusing on getting this EP out and working on the next project. But as the time comes and as the shows come, we'll see.
Look, we will take that. That's more news than before. So we'll keep our eyes peeled for some live shows from yourself. Lastly, Keelan, we would usually ask our guests what they're currently listening to, if there's anything at the moment that's on high rotation for yourself.
What am I listening to? Let's have a look. I've been listening to the new Charlie XCX album on repeat for a while.
Great album.
So that's been a big one. And I've also been listening to... this is the worst to look through my search history because Ariana Grande's My Everything album popped into my head yesterday, and I've been listening to that on repeat.
That's a great album. There's nothing wrong with that.
That is a great album. There's a reason why I listen to it. But yeah, probably that. And I've been really getting into Fred again and just listening through his latest album that came out quite some time ago. But it's probably my most recent.
All very solid choices. I think all great choices, Charlie, Fred and Ariana. But Keelan, thank you so much for your time today. Congratulations on the EP, Brave Face. It is out now. But yes, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast.
No, thank you so much for having me.
And that's our show. A massive thank you to Keelan Mak for his time. Brave Face is out now, and we've left links in the show notes if you'd like to stream the EP. We also want to give a huge shout out to Shari at Great Company Collective for helping out with today's interview. If you like this show, please subscribe wherever you get your pods and stay up to date when new episodes are released. We release new shows each Wednesday and Friday morning, and we now have a Patreon, which you can find within the show notes of this episode. You can follow the Players profile on Spotify, and you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Until next week, cheers.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
Are you ready for some hoops off?
Are you ready for some hoops off?
This is legitimately what you see people do right before they're going to fight. They take off their hoops, their earrings, because they don't want to get them ripped out of their ear, and they get ready for battle. Hey, I'm Liz.
And I'm Karen.
And you're listening to Hoops Off from Luminary.
On this show, we take our hoops off to bring you the spiciest, the saltiest takes on each week's games. We'll also be reading books by our favorite players, reviewing Shaq-sponsored products.
And of course, we'll be bringing the tea.
Should I prepare the hot water?
Oh, you better prepare the hot water. Please make sure to follow the show on your favorite podcast listening platform.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.